I think an important part that we need to touch on is the financial issues that people are having, especially right now with our economy the way it is. And again, we understand that people don't want to give up their pets. Is there something that the shelter is doing to help people in financial straits to retain their pets?
Yes. And Cheryl, you know this. I mean, obviously, we don't want to see anyone have to give up their pet because they literally can't afford to feed it, you know. So the shelter has stepped up and said that if people come to us and they're in a situation where they don't have the money to buy pet food, you know, we're going to help them out with that. I mean, we'll share our resources as much as we possibly can.
And so all somebody has to do is give us a call or stop in?
Or stop in, and sure. And we'll do the very best we can to help them with that type of situation.
Because we certainly would rather provide the food than to have the pet come to us.
Sure. And it doesn't, because someone is having a tough time financially, or maybe they're out of work or whatever, they still love their pet. That doesn't mean they're bad pet owners. It just means that, you know, they're having a tough time financially. And that shouldn't necessarily, you know, mean that they have to give their pet up. I mean, you and I both know that, I mean, we'd be sleeping in our car first before. You know.
I know I would be. Yeah. I'd have to get a bigger car.
You'd have to get rid of Tom, too, but, you know, that'd be okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it's important for people to know that we're also a resource for that. If they're financially strapped and they're having a problem feeding their pets, we can, you know, help them with
the one thing,
you
know, I do want to make clear, though, Cheryl, is that we do occasionally get people who call that have a medical issue with their pet. That we cannot help with. We don't have a veterinarian on staff. We're not veterinarians. We can't do that. The one thing that we always encourage people to do is to, you know, check maybe on websites or because there are some nonprofit organizations that will assist with
when it's a medical issue.
When it's a medical issue.
So we can take care of the nutrition, but we can't do anything regarding the medical.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not able to do those things either. So,
okay, well, let's go on and talk about some of the reasons why pets are surrendered to shelters. And the number one reason that we see here after moving for cats is litter box issues. And that's kind of my strong suit because I've been doing cat consultations for the shelter for almost 15 years now. And, you know, we get people that are calling because their cat isn't using the litter box. And I can tell you, Joni, I have a list in my office of 32 different things that can put a cat off of its litter box. Sometimes they're really simple things, and sometimes they're more complicated. And what I found amazing when I started doing consultations is just to get the groundwork for me to kind of evaluate what's going on, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half of information that I have to collect. And so I'm willing to do that with somebody. What I feel my job is I'm help the owner become a detective so they can figure out why their cat is doing what they're doing. And then once we've figured that out, then I give them the tools to work with that. And sometimes what we're looking at is maybe there's not enough boxes. Maybe they're not being cleaned enough. Maybe there's somebody new in the household. Maybe somebody left the household. Maybe there's been some construction being done. Maybe they've moved and taken the cat with them and the cat is, you know, not comfortable in its new territory. So there's a lot of things involved with litter box issues. And here again, a lot of times I'll get that call that says, well, I've tried everything. And I've never talked to them. And the problem has been going on for 6 months to a year. And my heart just aches because oftentimes a litter box issue, if you address it right away, it can be fixed. But the number one thing, as soon as somebody calls me and says, my cat has a litter box issue, the first thing I ask them is, have you had your cat to the veterinarian? Because I'm here to tell you, Joni, all the behavior modification in the world will not correct a medical issue. If a cat has a urinary tract infection or is hyperthyroid or has some other underlying illness, it can affect animal behavior. And, you know, it can make all the difference in the world to whether or not that cat's going to regularly hit its box if it's healthy. And so people really need to go and take that cat in and have a urine analysis done, maybe have some blood work done, and so that we can honestly say, yes, this is a behavioral issue. And then we start from there.
Now, let me ask you this, Cheryl. Let's say someone does have some issues and they don't want to give up their cat. How do they, get to the consulting part of it? Do they call you directly? Do they call the shelter here? Do they check the website out?
We have a behavior hotline, and we'll give that number out, and people can call and leave a message. I check that number every day. I try to get back to people within 24 to 48 hours. This is kind of a tag onto my regular job, so I don't always get to it. I can't always call people during the day, so sometimes I call them in the evening. But it's important that people, when they leave a message on the behavior hotline, that they tell me the time that is best to call them. So if I can call you at work, if I can call you, I can't promise you that I can call you at 1 o'clock today. I can't promise you that. I will try in most instances, but they have to give me some idea what the problem is and the best time to call them. And they have to be willing to, like I said, it's going to take about an hour. And they have to have that commitment. And again,
I hear you.
I've tried everything, and I understand. I personally have had a cat with a litter box issue, and I know how frustrating it is. Nobody wants to have a pet that is soiling in the house. But we have to figure out, first we have to take a deep breath and say, okay, from the cat's point of view, this is normal cat behavior. Why is the cat doing this? We have to figure it out, because to the cat, they're not doing anything wrong. And so we have to figure out why are they avoiding their litter box? Why are they going to the couch?
Now, Cheryl, before we wrap that up with the kitties, is there any charge to this?
No, there is none at all.
Okay.
None at all. And the truth of the matter is because it is very time consuming for me, there are materials that I am willing to send out. If people have internet access, I'll tell them go to our website and check out the behavioral information. Bottom line is, if somebody wants to make a donation for that information, it's greatly appreciated, because there is an expense to the shelter for my time and for the information that we're giving.
And I'm here to tell you, we'll take money anytime. So.
Yeah.
Cheryl, what about cats and biting? We get calls about that, or animals are surrendered frequently for that reason.
For biting, and I get a lot of calls. The majority of my calls are cats with litter box issues. Number 2 are the calls that I'm getting about cats that are aggressive, and they're either biting other cats or they're biting their owners. And aggression in cats is nothing to mess around with. And I have found, again in my years of experience, most of the time when a cat is aggressive, they're reacting to something that the people have done. And a lot of times I find that people play with their pets with their hands. And that is a big no-no. When you when you play with an animal with your hands, and what I'm talking about is when you go, oh, kitty, 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 and you're roughing them up, and you're when they're little and you let them bite and they're doing the bunny kick and they're touching, biting on your hands. It's so cute because they're like, little wild animals. Yeah. And then 6, 7, 12 months, you're stepping out of the shower and your cat nabs onto your foot.
Right.
It's not funny. Well, we've taught the cat that it's okay to bite and scratch human flesh. And so everybody has to stop playing with your hands, with your animals. Use a toy, use a puppet, use a stuffed toy. And also we have a tendency to over pet our cats. It feels so good, it's so relaxing to us, and the cat's giving us all kinds of signals. Stop biting me, their tail is slashing, they're moving their ears around, and all of a sudden the cat nails you. They get overstimulated. And I have to share with you, Joni, again in my 15 years, and I've kept really accurate records, 80% of the aggression calls that I've gotten are from cats that are either front or forepaw declawed. So they do realize that their defenses are limited, and they're trying to give us a message, and the only way sometimes they can give us that message is to bite.
Sure.
And so it's really important. Here again, if somebody is having an aggression issue with their cat, they need to contact somebody, hopefully the Humane Society, so that we can talk about some things that you can do to keep your cat or your kitten from biting you. Now with kittens, sometimes there is some play biting, and there are things that we can do. But again, I can't help people if they don't call.
Good information, Cheryl.